Hello, this is the first time I've gone live during the day. Um, I have free time during the day a lot. I just end up getting into my thoughts and feelings more at night, like most people probably do. Um, I'm cooking some rice, so hopefully this will be nice buffer time before I get to eat. Yay! I'm sitting here, you can't see me, but I'm sitting here with my nice cup of hot apple cider with a cinnamon stick. Very aesthetic. And today, as you can see from the title, I wanted to get into a bit about um, healing from complex PTSD, even regular PTSD, BPD, attachment trauma, all of those little clusters of life experience, of wounding. When you have dominant or auxiliary extroverted feeling, I suppose this could, you know what, if you have extroverted feeling in your stack at all, listen in. And I mean, everyone uses a little bit of extroverted feeling, so this can't hurt, but I mean, it's going to apply more to people who have it higher up in their stack, right? So I guess I could start with the special pain of abandonment and rejection when you're an extroverted feeler. So for me, as an ENFJ, I get into social interactions, especially with new people or people for some reason with which I don't know where I stand with them. And I will watch in an SE kind of way, like I'll watch their body language, listen to their tone of voice towards me, and I'm so sensitive to minute changes. Um, it's not that I'm ever really wrong. Like, I don't think I've ever been wildly wrong, but I'm not always perfectly on the money either. And even when I am, sometimes I can run the risk of personalizing it. So, for example, like someone may be in an irritable mood, and that may be visible by the fact that they're like kind of scratching and rubbing at the back of their neck, like scrunching their face a little bit, getting a little antsy as I'm talking to them. And yeah, maybe they don't want to listen what I have to say in that moment. But, you know, that doesn't mean that what I have to say in that moment is invaluable necessarily. It's not stupid inherently. It's not overstepping. I always worry that I'm saying something A, that's dumb, or B, rude, because I'm so hyper aware of those little tiny, I don't know, micro expressions, I guess. And it can be painful when you have that level of awareness and you're also carrying around like interpersonal trauma like that, because then you run the risk of personalizing it. Like, I know inferior TI critic, sometimes it's just, I rip myself apart sometimes. Like, I'm always ripping myself a new asshole, and I know intellectually, and I know intellectually is also one of my other many repeated phrases, but I know that on a mental level, I don't need to be criticizing myself in this way. I wouldn't criticize someone else who consistently does nice things, consistently tries their best in such a manner, and yet I hold myself to this like unbelievable standard that I don't even hold other people to, you know? Um, but knowing that doesn't necessarily take the pain away in the moment. It's definitely lessened it, and it's definitely helped me control some of my behaviors. So I think when I was like a teenager, I may have reacted passive aggressively or gone into a complete meltdown, a complete spiral. And those feelings definitely still come up a lot. But I think I've gotten better at not catastrophizing them. And just because I haven't perfected the art of talking myself down yet doesn't mean that I can't, and it doesn't mean that you can't if you also experience this. I also, I actually don't know how long this video is going to be, so I mean, we'll find out. My videos tend to end up around the 40-minute mark magically. I mean, I don't know if this one will, so it remains to be seen. I actually have more than 2 notes written down this time, so that's fun. So let's take an abrupt segue right now and get a little bit into gaslighting and why introverted feeling hurts. So this actually has a lot to do with the stuff I was just talking about, because while we know that I hope we know that extroverted feeling does not a good person make necessarily. You can use FE and be manipulative. You can use FE and you get the point. But okay, I'll try and come up with some little personal examples. Like, I've mentioned before that one of my besties is an ESFP. Apologies to my future self and current audience if that ends up being untrue, but I, upon reflection and upon talking to him, and even with the test as minor confirmation, because we know we can't trust the test completely, almost all signs point to ESFP. So there you have it. And I guess this is partial evidence why I think he's an ESFP, just that. So I think he is very good at being there for me emotionally, and definitely values the sharing of emotions between us. But a lot of the times I'll send him something like I sent him a picture of a new show I've been obsessed with. I sent him a picture of a character in particular, and I was like, oh my god, like, I'm so queer for this, like, this is the best. Just expressing my extreme enthusiasm for this show and this character that he hasn't watched yet. Now, if someone had sent me that sort of thing for something I haven't watched yet, unless it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, my response would kind of match theirs. Just because even if I don't personally experience that level of enthusiasm over something I've never watched even, or have yet to watch, I recognize how much it means to the other person, and I'm mirroring on purpose, not even all on purpose, like it's kind of subconscious. Like, part of me is tapping into the feelings, part of it's mirroring. It's a mix. Emotions are complex when you have FE, okay? But rather than really refined, I guess. But I'm showing him in some capacity, or I'm showing the person that what they're saying and their experience behind what they're saying is valid, and the amount of emotion that they're displaying towards whatever the thing is real. So I'm, like, in a way, mirroring their reality back to them, because I know how it hurts when your reality is denied. And that's why I wrote down gaslighting specifically, because Well, okay, let's take it back to my friend for a second. So I showed him this picture and like sent my caption of my feelings about it. And instead of being like, "Oh my god," he was just like, "Ooh, yeah, we've all been there." Like he was using his personal experience. I mean, I use my own personal experience when I'm using FE too. Like, I don't think that personalizing something automatically means it's FI. Um, but he was specifically using his personal experience to tell me he related to something rather than um, creating a harmonizing experience for the both of us. And if I was a little bit more secure in my attachments, I would probably just like appreciate the attention and care he was showing me as it was and be able to tap into the genuine nature behind it, because my friend is a very kind, compassionate, genuine person. You don't have to have high FE to do that. T is a different story. I'm joking. Am I? Topic for another video. But, he's a good fucking person. And like, sorry, I'm a potty mouth. Warning. I can't warn you after, but it's better than not at all, I guess. And instead of just being able to bask in that, I feel hurt. Logically, rationally, whatever. I know that he's not doing this to hurt me. That's just how he's having his own personal response, and that's fine. But because I even like overextend myself to show people how much I'm invested in them, when other people don't do it back for me, that fucking sucks. That hurts. And the reason, I mean, all FE does that to an extent, but I think the reason it's so extreme for me is because of all of that trauma where I have been gaslit. I have been told and shown by other people, especially when I was younger, and not even by individual people, but just by systems in general, inadvertently. That's a whole other can of worms, also. But regardless, I have been shown and told that my feelings not only do not matter, but they are not real. So when I'm not getting that immediate feedback, that reflection to affirm my immediate emotional experience, I feel rejected. I feel pain in that moment. And I think I'm doing better to recognize that has a lot to do with me. What MBTI I think is offering me is not demanding that everyone show love in the same way. I don't think it's healthy to abandon feeling altogether and use it as an excuse to be a fucking jerk and not work on your emotional health. Because guess what? All human beings have emotions. Therefore, all human beings, and other beings, sure, have emotional health to maintain. But it's hard for me to speak other people's cognitive languages. And I think MBTI, like for so many other people, offers me the framework to be less hurt. And also just to be more productive in conversations where someone does get hurt, particularly me. I'm hurting a lot of the time, to be fair. However, this is why at this point in my life, I'm really only open to dating INFJs, ENFJs, and ISFJs. The reason I didn't put ESFJ is because we both lead with a judging function, and their judgments are backed up by SI stuff. And I feel like because my NI is so heavy, I think if I was more of an if I was less NI influenced, I might get along with ESFJs better, but I find that our judgments about things don't really line up often, beyond like analyzing the people in our environment. And even then, it doesn't always um, work out. I'm pretty politically radical, and I find it can sometimes take ESFJs longer to get to that point, so we can sometimes clash. Um, not that ESFJs are dumb. I hate that stereotype, but just that ESFJs like material to engage with ideas that are a lot more practical, and it can take, I think sometimes the political spaces that I'm in would do better to make theory and praxis more accessible. In plain English, stop being elitist, fellow activists. It's not helping as many people as we think it is. Anyway, but like I have someone who's close to me who is an ISFJ. We function more like partners, honestly, but he we work really well together. He enjoys my NI insights as well. I never feel like my reality isn't going to be reflected back to me when I engage with him. And I think, I think it's a fair boundary or limitation for me to put on the potential dating pool for myself at this time, just because, like, for a few reasons, but partially just because I don't want to constantly have to self-soothe when I'm with a partner just because of the way they express themselves. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, this isn't to say that preferring FI as a feeling function is wrong. It's not. But it makes more sense for me and to me to have close daily partnerships with people who are able to express love in the way that I need, express love in the ways that I did not get as a child. It's just, it lifts a large weight off of my shoulders, off of my chest, to be able to interact that way. And I think also, with my recent ex, who's an ENTP, I mean, he it was an FE user, but I think, and I think, especially as like a cis male, had a lot of emotional growing to do, and I was not the person to be pushing him to do that. As a partner, like, I can't hold your hand and do all the work of walking you through those issues. Even though as an ENFJ, I feel compelled to do that, definitely. But as a partner, it's not my job. I can help you, but you have to be willing to see where you need to pick up your slack and do the work. That's what's painful for me personally, too. Like, I try so hard to better myself in interpersonal relationships. And relationships themselves are often motivation to change. His motivation was his social circle. I apparently was not enough motivation, and oh well. But, I have an INTP friend, and we had a bit of a falling out. I don't think because he was an INTP, just just needing some distance. But, his FE was a lot healthier, and, like, he related to people on a very rational level, but it was really FE informed, um, which made us be able to connect better. I felt like my feelings most of the time were reflected well enough back to me that I felt comfortable being somewhat close to him. Um, but you know, it just makes more sense for me to um, at this point in my life align myself really closely with people who I don't have to spend a lot of time in translation with. Um, Not that that is a style that everyone needs, or like not that that's a promise everyone needs to make to themselves in terms of like attracting like and like building a life with like, but I mean, it's something to consider. However, though I am keeping myself like emotionally secure by drawing boundaries like that, I recognize that I still have to work on not personalizing, or even, yeah, not personalizing and not catastrophizing every single interaction. Um, while I've gotten good at controlling my behavior, I'm still working on healing my internal narrative. So basically, what that means is I know at this point not to lash out at people, not to hold them responsible for things I have to work on, um, not to accuse them of being at fault, basically, etc., etc. But that doesn't mean that my inner critic has diminished. Sometimes, if anything, it's gotten stronger because I have nowhere to put that negative energy now externally. And I mean, like, I don't really want to externalize it onto others. So it just sometimes gets turned back in on me. And I mean, while that may burn less bridges, it's still going to make maintaining relationships in general a lot harder. And it's just going to make me feel like shit. I don't want to feel like shit. Who wants to feel like crap all the time? Hopefully, well, part of me does. I have a bit of a I have a bit of a masochistic streak, unfortunately. But generally, I want to feel good like anybody else. So I've been thinking a lot about how I can actually practice taking care of my FE trauma, I guess. And I think one of the biggest things that's come into my awareness that I haven't really honed yet, other than just entertaining the idea intellectually, which isn't the same as practicing something, let me tell you, is to practice saying no so that you can hear it. And I mean, to take it back to my friend example, it wasn't that he was saying no to something that I had asked, but it runs along the same thing of like disrupting the harmony. So when you're saying yes to someone, whether it's doing something for them or you're just like agreeing with what they're putting out, that's kind of riding a harmonic wave. You're both on the same page. You're both emitting the same feelings back and forth to each other and feeding on it. Or at least that's how I experience it. But when you hear a no or can't relate, it feels like a disruption of that harmony that I crave. So practicing saying no to things is scary, but it gets you comfortable with breaking that. It almost feels like breaking a fourth wall, honestly. And I was on Facebook recently, and I noticed a conversation occur between a couple of my friends, and they were talking about, one of them was telling the other about a game that they played, I think in a workshop or something, where and you did it in pairs, and partner A basically comes up with a list of things that they want to ask from partner B, and partner B, their job is to say no to all of them, and in as many varied ways as they can, while also being, you know, appropriately compassionate, obviously. And then after that, switching. So just the goal is to kind of get you used to doing that. So I think that's something that I would love to practice with a friend. I don't care if it's unusual or sounds therapy-esque. Good. Like, I don't always want to have to pay $100 an hour to feel better. I can do that work too, and I don't have to do it by myself necessarily. That'll probably resonate with dominant extroverted feelers the most. Try it out. But I mean, introverts can draw benefit from that too, because everybody needs connection and everybody needs a degree of interdependence. Otherwise, we wouldn't be social animals. What was I going to say? I was also going to say, oh yeah, that I think this is something that I'm going to practice by myself too, just because it's healthy for me to kind of stabilize my own sense of conviction in private, because I seek out help a lot, which sounds weird coming from an ENFJ, but I have BPD, man. I crave that validation. So I'm probably, yeah, and maybe even after this video. You know what? Actually? Why wait? Let me try that right now. I don't even know how I would do this other than just being like, practice saying, you know what? Practice saying no kindly to yourself is important too, because I think NFJs in particular, we are comfortable saying no to ourselves, but a lot of the times we say no to ourselves too harshly. And I mean, harshness has its place in the world, sure, but like, we take it too far for like no reason. Well, not no reason, but for like not helpful reasons. So let me just okay. So I'm going to write down, give me a second. Take this moment of silence as a chance to mull over all the things that I said, or maybe just take a minute to think about some of the scenarios that might hurt you more to hear no for. I hope that grammatically made sense, but I'm going to assume you get what I mean. Hopefully the scratch of my pencil is kind of ASMR. Okay. So this is actually kind of a conversation that I have with myself, not in words in my head necessarily, but just like an internal conflict I experience. And I wrote it out as if I was two people. Um, here's what I wrote down. Faye, I'm really feeling like garbage, and I just want to talk it out for a while. Is that okay? Me, to me. You know, I've actually been too focused on negative thoughts recently, so no, I think I just have to have a nap right now. Sorry about that. Um, and you know what? Writing that down, the hardest part of that was actually the word no itself. Because I was writing it and I was like, that sounds too harsh. Can I just say, I think maybe, blah, blah, blah. And sure, the other person, 9 times out of 10, had this been an actual two-person interaction, would probably get that you mean no, but actually saying the word no is important because it really gives you that permission to decline things and to draw boundaries. Because when the words no come out of my mouth, it's easy when I'm like making a judgment about something and I'm like, no, that's not okay for him to do to her. It's so much easier. But when I'm saying no to something for myself, like that shit's hard. It is. And it's hard because I don't want to hurt anybody else. But saying no to something isn't inherently hurtful because people are not automatically entitled to all of my labor. Even if they like objectively deserve the help or the time or the love, blah, 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 doesn't mean I'm always obligated to give that. Now, this message in particular is for people who struggle with giving too much. If you're going to use this rhetoric as a reason to never give enough, fuck you. Work on your shit. Thanks. Because it's something that I've seen and experienced, and don't do that. Just we can talk about that together if you want. Maybe if you pay me. I'm half joking. But anyway, that was difficult. But I'm really glad that I did it. And I hope that you, after this video is over, which it will be fairly soon, can practice doing stuff like that, because it does make a difference. It really does. And I guess I just wanted to kind of finish off with the idea that also not everybody is going to pick up on your cues, and not just with regards to saying no to things, but also in general when you're expressing what you need. This isn't to excuse my mother's behavior towards me throughout my life, but I'm trying to get better at asking her for things. It's hard because I think this actually works with healthier FI users, but the thing with my mom is that if I ask her directly for something, she often responds with contempt, like, oh, you're in the kitchen, can you bring this drink over for me? And she'll go, ah, fine, and just overexpress her own disdain. And she's not just like, huh, okay, like where I can hear that she's tired or maybe doesn't want to do it, but she's still going to do it because it's not a big deal, and like she doesn't think it's too much to ask. And she actually doesn't know how to say no without guilt, like guilting the other person, guilting me in particular, and without contempt. And that's not fair. So I think that's pushed me further into like relying too much on FE to get what I need, because sometimes I'll give cues instead, like, oh, I'm really thirsty right now, or just kind of like announcing how I'm feeling and hoping the other person, particularly her, picks up on what I'm saying and responds with a need. I mean, in her case, not only is she not always picking up on it, but she doesn't want to help me, and never really did. TBH. Yikes. But, getting personal, wow. But in the case of well-intentioned FI users, they don't always know that that means that I need something from them. So that's also why it's good to do that kind of activity with yourself, because not only does it help you practice saying no, but it helps you practice pinpointing in words what it is that you want and what it is that you need. And that's actually a skill. I mean, the no I'm working on, but that's actually a skill I've started to get really good at. It's just a matter of like giving myself the courage to say it in the moment. So it's like I have to continue exercising that muscle, because it is like a muscle, and eventually exercise becomes muscle memory. You see it all the time with like dancers who stand in first position. That's a ballet thing. Waiting in line for stuff, like if you get good at identifying what it is you need right now and saying it, and not just stating it, but asking for help, it'll start to come more naturally. That's just, it's common sense, provided you have safe places to practice with. Don't pull a me and try to work on it with someone who's not willing to go there with you, who just doesn't give a fuck or isn't able to give one. You're not going to transform them, and you're honestly not going to transform yourself, because it takes two to tango. My pals, it really does. So hopefully some of this insight is useful to you. I know it's been really useful to me. My favorite thing is one of my favorite things is like working on myself and then sharing what works and what doesn't with people, so that we can all get out alive together. That's actually the name of my friend's, one of my friend's workshops, about something a little different, but shout out to my pal. And shout out to you if you're listening to this. I so appreciate it. Shout out to you if you're listening to this and taking in what I'm saying and feeling motivated to try to help yourself out. I'm so proud of you. That is incredible. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your ass. I really do mean it. Because this stuff, I don't know how else to say it. I know I say X is hard, but it is. It just is. And I see you. And you're doing great. So I think I'm going to leave you off with that. No one's live here with me right now. Gary, come back. But I know maybe a few people will hear this later. So I hope that wherever you are and whatever time it is, that you're having a good one. Take care. Bye.